Good morning, friends. Welcome back to Astrology Today and Tarot with Mel Rose. This is the Tarot portion and the second half of my daily astrology post, the first half of which you can find on my other channel, which is called Astrology Today with Mel Rose. The idea behind this second post is to provide some further intuitive insight into the day's energies based on the aspects. First, I will discuss the tarot card that sits on the side of the page, and then I'll do a quick rundown of the day's astrology before I throw a random card that will give us something more to think about. So let's get into it, shall we? The tarot card that sits on the side of the page today is the Nine of Cups. And I have a feeling that we're changing over to the Ten of Cups. Yes. Not the Nine of Cups, it's the Nine of Swords. And we'll be changing to the Ten of Swords tomorrow. So today is the final day for this Nine of Swords discussion about anxiety and depression and the way we allow the things that capture our mind in a negative way to keep us from fulfilling our goals and creating healthy routines for ourselves and sticking to them. You know, the Nine of Swords is the card that represents the second 10 days, the second decan of the sun's transit through Gemini. And so here we are at the end of that second 10 days. And we've been discussing this for a while. Gemini is an air sign, swords are air in the tarot, and this is about how we use our thoughts and our words, how we make our plans, how we use those things, and sort of like how it affects us and the people around us, right? So Nine of Swords represents a time in a person's experience when we might be experiencing some sleeplessness or some mental anguish or anxiety, something that is keeping us up at night, or basically sort of pushing us out of our routine and making us unable to focus on what it is that we need to focus on. So things come up, bad things happen. Either we entrap ourselves through self-sabotage, we ensnare ourselves, we acquiesce to things that don't work for us. We just say yes and get into these situations where we don't really want to be and where we are not fully expressed, like in the Eight of Swords, right? Or we can also make plans that we think are going to go really well, and then often because our intention wasn't in the right place or we didn't really know what we were planning to do, it backfires on us, right? So, and then we have to think about the things that we said and the things that we planned and sort of hold our head in our hands and think, oh my goodness. And sometimes it's about the way somebody else has thought about us or used their words against us or made plans against us that can be, anxiety inducing. There are a million things, okay, that might cause us to feel like this. But the important thing to note is that if you are dwelling on something, if you are ruminating on something that you can't do anything about, then it's time to retrieve your mind. Because dwelling on something that you can't do anything about is not a good excuse for not showing up to work or showing up to school or showing up for the people we said we would show up for. And if we fall out of our healthy routines, if we're not able to get sleep and take care of ourselves, then we can't take care of the other things that we said we would. So it's time to retrieve our brains. It's time to find that calm. It's time to learn to meditate or to start to journal or to engage in the introspection that has really been largely on offer for us during this time, during this sun's transit through Gemini. So, this feels even like resistant to introspection, right? So we've got to find a way to calm the mind. And often, when the mind gets wrapped around some negative loop of thinking and begins to overanalyze something that, we can't really do anything about, that leads to also strong emotions, feelings of failure or feelings of confusion or just feelings of anger. And that can further affect the way we show up in our lives, to do the things we said we would do and for the people we said we would show up for. So We can't let anxiety take over and affect the way we treat other people, okay? And we can't let anxiety take over and affect the way we are living, to the detriment of our mental and physical health. It's time to do what it takes to retrieve yourself from that downward spiral of negative thinking. And if you find that the mechanisms you've learned, the coping skills you have learned for these things are not working for you on your own, it is time to reach out to a friend. Knives, swords, air, this is about communication. Talk to somebody, don't hold it in, okay? And with all of that said, I'm going to go ahead and shuffle some cards. I want to say, talk to somebody that's appropriate to talk to, okay? If you're very angry at somebody and that's what's causing you sleeplessness, it's maybe not the best thing to approach them directly in the middle of your heated, anxious anger, okay? Talk to somebody who has a calm disposition and who can hear you out. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and shuffle some cards and remind myself and the cards that the sun is in Gemini. And when the sun is in Gemini, Gemini is a dispersing air sign. It takes the information and it communicates it right back out, right? We gather information, we collate information, and we communicate it. Communication is the key. It's the thing that keeps everything alive. It's the key thing that keeps our ideas alive. Without communication, information means nothing, okay? So, we really have to be in communication, and not just with other people, although that is a very important part of communication. We have to be in communication with ourselves. We have to have conversations with ourselves, not like this, more like a conversation with ourselves about what, how we got here and how we can get out, right? A conversation about how to calm the nerves, how to calm the emotions so that we can bring the brain back into alignment. And also conversations with spirit, however you like to think of that, the greater aggregate of all things having being that is bigger and more complex than we are, and so we don't know what its intentions are, right? But we can still have conversation with that, with spirit, which also correlates to the subconscious, to what's going on in our own hearts and our own guts. The waxing gibbous moon starts in Libra today and moves into Scorpio this afternoon. Moon in Scorpio is a good time. Scorpio is a fixed sign. It's a good time to get things done. You don't have to waste any time. You can clear out the clutter. You can, cut out the stuff that doesn't work, or the little extra steps that you've thrown in there. You can just sort of get to the point and take care of it, take care of business. So I love that, because the waxing gibbous moon is a time to be taking care of business. Literally, we're taking our plans and transmuting them into goals achieved at this time. And the moon will be full. When will the moon be full? I know this. Moon will be full on Tuesday, so we have just a few days left before that full moon comes up. Any last minute changes to the plan right now really need to be the kind that pull us more directly toward the goal, okay? Because otherwise it's considered a waste of time. Just in case you needed to know that. Then the moon side of the page, the more feeling life, the more domestic and interior life. We have this really positive moon trine Saturn. We feel good about the stability that we have. We have a certain amount of emotional maturity right now. We could handle something a little bit difficult in terms of, expressing our emotions or hearing somebody else's emotions at this time. That trine is really like the most positive, high functioning blessing that you can have. So, you're really personally stable at this time. And then the moon square Pluto is a void of course moon. That's the last aspect the moon is going to make in the sign of Libra before it goes into Scorpio. So this is with the moon in a square with Pluto. This is an insight that may challenge us on the inside. We may not enjoy having it come up. However, we have this 3 hours void of course period where the moon just isn't really as influenced by either of these signs, right? We can really be ourselves on the inside without feeling the pull of either of those influences. Have that conversation with yourself. What is so challenging about what's coming up, right? What is the insight? What is the feeling, the emotion, or the hunch that you're getting? That that, if you process it, if you give it a lot of thought, it might change the way you look at things. And we all always have to be interested to changing our mind. We have to be always have to be interested in changing our mind. If changing our mind, makes us more like the higher version of ourselves, the most the most positively and honestly expressed version of ourselves. And then after that 3-hour opportunity for your meditation, journaling, doing your tarot, whatever it is that you do to have that internal conversation, that internal and with spirit conversation, Moon makes ingress to Scorpio, and Scorpio is ruled by Pluto and Aries. So Scorpio is asking us to use that blessing of insight, the Mercury trine Pluto. Use that blessing of insight at this time for the next 2.5 days. We can really get some, again, work done. We don't have to waste any time. We don't have to worry about stepping over stuff. On the inside, we can just get right to the heart of things, and with that blessing of insight, we can really make some progress in our personal lives. And then on the sun side of the page today, Mercury came back for a third time into its trine with Pluto. The first time, Mercury and Pluto were both direct. The second time, Mercury was retrograde, but Pluto was direct. No, the second time Mercury and Pluto were both retrograde. and then the third time now Mercury is direct again, but Pluto is retrograde and will be through October 8th. So we're just giving this is our intellect in a really blessed harmonic vibration with what's coming up from the gut, what's coming up from the inside, from the shadow, those difficult, dark, or hidden things that desire to be expressed. Now is a good time to express them. Show us your inner fantastic. Show us what it is that makes you different. Show us what it is that makes you stand out. Show us what it is that you're really good at, so that we can offer you some appreciation, and our connection to you can grow, and you can feel more fully expressed in the world, right? Now, Pluto is retrograde, Saturn is retrograde. Friends, we're going through changes. And they're very closely linked at this time because Pluto is retrograde in the sign ruled by Saturn, and Saturn is retrograde in the other sign ruled by Saturn. So it's really all about Saturn right now, and it's really all about the Saturn on the inside of our hearts and minds. It's all about our sense of stability in the world, what it takes for us to feel stable, what our rules and policies are, what kind of transitions we've gone through in terms of our habitual ways of being. We're going through these deep and total changes, and we have this beautiful opportunity, have had for over a month now, to really gain some insight into what those changes look like, and to converse with ourselves about them, to converse with other people about them, to plan for the future where these changes have been gone through. So again, use the blessing of insight while you have it. And with all of that said, I'm going to go ahead and turn over this card. Ooh, we got the Ace of Cups. I love that. I love that. Love. So cups are about emotion, right? That bottomless well of love that we have to draw on, that brings us all the caring that we do about everything, including the things that we hate and despise. I've always maintained that you can't honestly say you hate something if you don't really care. Okay, so there's something loving in the expression of hatred. There's something loving even in the expression of things that we despise. But the Ace of Cups is that bottomless well that you have to draw on. It's got all of the emotion in it. And look, it comes up from a peaceful place, right? And if we draw it up through our bodies and we express it in a positive way, this is what it looks like. And this is what we look like. We look like a bottomless cup of sunshine. We look like a bottomless cup of life-giving blessing, okay? So that's what the Ace of Cups is about, and I love that in the context of the Mercury trine Pluto thing that's been going on for a while. Also, with this moon moving into Scorpio, use the blessing of insight. You know, Scorpio is a very deeply felt sign, and it understands that emotions are not just, you know, a chemical reaction. Okay, an emotion is not just a feeling. Emotion is actually part of how our intuition speaks to us. Okay, an emotion is information, Gemini. Okay, and so expressing our emotions is sharing information, right? And that is a really good thing to do, express our emotions. And of course, you know, we have to be careful when we're expressing our emotions. You know, if we have a lot of anxiety, if we're experiencing a lot of negativity on the brain, you know, expressing our emotions can come out in this way that tends to put people off or just make us feel really self-conscious, right? Um, so, you know, expressing those emotions, we have to be careful about it. We have to, you know, choose who we're going to express them to. We have to pull back and become clear enough to say the person I should talk to about this is, and then don't let that be the person that you're most antagonized by in the moment. Okay, let that be somebody who you know appreciates who you are and can really hear you out and understand what you're going through. Okay, but you know, when you come to a place in your anxiety where you are so tired of feeling upset, confused, and angry all the time, the first thing that you can do is to give yourself a little bit of a break, right? Just say, you know, I'm only human. Of course I got fooled. I'm only human. Of course I made a mistake. I'm only human. Of course I misunderstood what was going on in this situation, okay? And and yes, if you got into a situation, even if you got into a situation where somebody else mistreated your trust, okay, you chose to be in that situation, you possibly ignored some red flags or some warning signs, or you know, just a hesitation on your own part. You didn't listen to the way you felt about the situation. You went, you know, headlong into it, and then you got disappointed, right? So give yourself a little ease for that. Ease up on yourself. Say, you know, give yourself a little love, like draw some of that bottomless pit of love that you have for everything and everybody, everything that you care about, whether you care about it in a negative way or in a positive way. You know, give yourself a break for caring, but also give yourself some care. Whatever care you have given to others, you have to give to yourself. When you feed another, you have to feed yourself. And I mean that, you know, literally and allegorically. So, and again, there's a bottomless well of love. So give some to yourself, and give some to yourself in the form of sort of easing up on yourself, right? Allowing yourself to get some rest, allowing yourself to detach from, you know, the knot of negative mindset and over analysis of something that you can't help. Okay, it's okay to take that ease. It's okay to give yourself that break. And when we give ourselves that break, when we are more easy and loving and kind with ourselves, we find it much, much easier to be more easy and loving and kind with others. And even if right now you think there's no way I will ever be easy and loving and kind with that other person, or in relationship to this situation that is keeping me up at night, the truth of the matter is, when you can approach it with ease and love and kindness, it will be resolved. Okay, so keep loving, keep drawing on that well of love. Love yourself first. Take care of yourself. Give to yourself the stuff that you've given to other people. So if you're feeling an imbalance in the way things worked out because you gave of yourself a great deal to a situation, and then it became a disappointment for you, a disaster for you, you know, something's got to give, and the only thing you can change is your reaction. So choose to be kind to yourself, okay? Choose to give yourself a break, and that'll help you start to give other people a break. Don't forget, we're going through changes, okay? And this is about really foundational stuff on the inside of our hearts and minds, things that we have always relied on ways of being that have always worked for us, not necessarily continuing to work for us. Okay, so then we have to find a new way of being that works for us, and we feel like there's an urgency to that because it feels really unstable to not know, like, how I act in a certain situation, right? Like, oh, I used to do this and it was just fine, but now people think that joke is terrible, so I can't tell this joke, or I can't, now people think that way of talking is rude, so I've got to find a different way to express myself with people, right? Expression. An expression. One is from the head and one is from the heart. And we should let the heart win. I think that's all I have to say about it, friends. Thank you so much for being here today. I truly appreciate your presence with me today. My name is Mel Rose, and I'll see you all back here tomorrow for more astrology today and tarot.